It is the 29th Sunday in Ordinary Time, and today we listen to this gospel passage. The Pharisees sent their disciples and the Herodians to ask Jesus the question about paying census tax to Caesar. Teacher, we know you are a truthful man and that you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. And they ask him, is it lawful to pay the census tax to Caesar or not? They want to catch Jesus. They want to trap him. The first thing here is to understand that in the first place, the Pharisees and the Herodians belong to different political groups and have different understanding of religion. The Pharisees are religious fanatics and extremists. The Herodians belong to the camp of Caesar. The Pharisees do not believe in the rulership of Caesar. They see Caesar as a dominant, oppressive ruler. The Herodians believe in Caesar's governance. They believe in the Roman rule, and they are subject to Caesar. The Pharisees do not believe in paying the census tax. They don't believe in paying tax to Caesar. The Pharisees see the coin as a graven image, and they don't recognize graven image because of their religious beliefs. So the coin should be a worship to a false god in the Jewish law. But the Herodians would approve the payment of tax to Caesar, and through it, perhaps they make some profit. So you can see these two contradictory ideologies, but they come together just for the simple fact of setting a trap, of ensnaring Jesus, for the simple game of making Jesus to commit an error, and they will hold him for that. But Jesus is smarter. Jesus is the greatest lawyer. So what does he do? He asks them to bring the coin. Whose image is this? Caesar's image, correct? Okay, so give back to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God. In this single statement, there is so much that we can unpack. The first thing is about worship. Jesus uses this opportunity to teach us and to take our minds back to the first commandment. I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. You shall not worship any other false god. The prophet Isaiah touches on this in the first reading of today, reminds the Israelites about their commitment to God and about the supremacy of God in their lives. At this point, the Israelites were still in Babylon, experiencing loss, captivity, misery, and anguish. But the prophet reminds them that God has decided to set them free, to liberate them. God sends the king of Persia, Cyrus, to free the Israelites. But the Israelites mistake the rule of Cyrus, the opportunity of Cyrus. They mistake that as a power from the God of Babylon. So the prophet Isaiah calls their mind back and takes them back to this first commandment. He says, I am the Lord and there is no other. There is no God besides me. I am the Lord, there is no other. So when Jesus says, give back to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, but to God what belongs to God, Jesus invites us to worship God with our hearts and not compromise. Growing up in my African background, this passage used to be a passage that was grossly misinterpreted, because some weak Catholics, some weak Christians used to use this as an excuse to doing idolatrous, superstitious, and fetish practices. If someone was sick, for example, and went to consult the native doctor for divination, the excuse you will hear is, Jesus said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Give to God what belongs to God. If someone compromised in election, you will hear that. If someone took bribe or gave bribe, you will hear that excuse. If someone took part in malpractice, exam malpractice, the quick excuse would be, Jesus said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. That is not what Jesus is saying here. Jesus is asking us to recognize God above every other thing. The second message from this is to understand that Jesus doesn't condemn civic responsibilities or civil authorities. Jesus invites us to give civil responsibilities and civic authorities their own position. Caesar and God can never compete. Election and faith can never compete. But elections belong to the civil governance, and constituted authorities are meant for the administration of the state, for the administration of the universe, and they should be given their own position. They should be recognized. And that is why even in the forthcoming American election, it is important to perform our civic responsibility by going out to vote. And how do we vote? In the Catechism of the Catholic Church, number 1783, it invites us to participate in election by a well-formed conscience. A well-formed conscience is a conscience that does not compromise. A well-formed conscience is a conscience that respects faith, that puts faith in its proper place. A well-formed conscience is a conscience that votes according to our belief and our faith. A well-formed conscience is a conscience that recognizes God's presence in the midst of the created universe. A well-formed conscience dismantles the negative Caesar mentality. A well-formed conscience is a conscience that acknowledges the sanctity of life, the dignity of the human person, the dignity of love, the dignity of justice, the dignity of faith, the dignity of compassion. A well-formed conscience is a conscience that gives Caesar, that gives the coin its own position. The third thing we need to understand from this gospel today is that fame, power, money can mislead. And that is one major problem in today's world. So Christ is inviting us to not worship anything other than God. Do not worship money, the coin. The coin can mislead. The coin can represent power. The coin can represent inordinate quest for fame. Jesus says, give back to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. What belongs to Caesar and what belongs to God? That will be the question. The coin belongs to Caesar, but we belong to God. Caesar belongs to God. All authorities in heaven and on earth belong to God. The psalmist in Psalm 95, verse 3, says, come before the Lord, bow down before him. He has made the heavens, he has made the seas, he has made the mountains. Everything in this world belongs to God. So my dear friends, let us remind ourselves today that we are image of God. Remember, in Genesis, it says, in his image, he created him. Male and female, he created them. God has created us in his image. So it is our duty to give God his due. We are God's due. Caesar belongs to God. Power belongs to God. Authority belongs to God. Empires belong to God. The coin is only a limited space within the entire gamut of the created universe. And it is God who has made everything. Let us worship him Let us adore him. Let us give to God what belongs to him and recognize civil authorities as guiding in accordance with the way of God. May God bless you.